Okay, so today is about ebook publishing. As always, I'm trying to, fit everything in 30 minutes so that you don't, waste too much time here, and hopefully you learn a lot, because the feedback was really good of the sessions that we've already done. People saying, "Oh, well, I didn't know that," and it saves me a lot of time. So hopefully you'll find some tips and tricks that you didn't know yet. So please ask questions in the Q&A panel or in the chat panel, whatever you feel is more comfortable in the WebEx software. And I'll try to address that either while I'm presenting or my colleague is doing that or afterwards. The only thing is, as always, no tech support questions, please. Simple reason, it's typically too individual why something doesn't work. So because you're crashing or some stuff like that. There is things that we can do to help you, and I'm going to show you these links after this session, but we can't do that in this session. We just don't have enough time here. Remember, this is the QuarkXPress Masterclass. I'm not repeating what you find in the manual. I'm going to show you some things that you might not know. Maybe you do, so you're a master yourself. I'm going to show you QuarkXPress 10. That's still the most current version, 10.2.1. As you all know, we showed a preview of QuarkXPress 2015 yesterday, so the next major version of QuarkXPress. And I'm actually going to talk about it a bit today because there is some things that are relevant for ePub that we have changed. So I'm going to briefly talk about that too. Before we start, why ePub? Well, it's an interesting thing, right? We all look for standards. In print, we have a lot of standards. When we do digital publishing, we enter a world where there is not many standards yet, besides maybe HTML5 and ePub. Most other formats that you might know, whether it's iBook from Apple or Folio from Adobe, they're all proprietary. And even in our own app publishing solution, App Studio, we use HTML5, however, that's very tailored to the apps that we do. So though it's a standard, you can't just send a file to somebody and say, here, do something with it, publish it, use it, or whatever. So there's recurring costs and stuff like that. The good thing about ePub is it's a standard. It started a long time ago. And as always with standards, or often with standards, people take kind of the lowest common denominator. And ePub started that way. So you have a lot of very weak kind of devices that use ePub, and they only show the first or the second standard. And that means that when you publish, you might not know what your user, your reader, is actually seeing. With ePub version 3, that all changed. ePub basically is HTML5 with a bit of XML in it. We look at that in a second. So the good thing is it's a standard, nobody controls it, we all can use it. Has a very wide reach, almost everybody accepts it. Notable exception is Amazon, which of course is very important, but there are free converters from to convert an ePub to an Amazon format. The interesting thing, especially when you come from print, and I think you all come from print, is we're talking about Reflow ePub here. Reflow ePub isn't pixel perfect, so not like your PDF. It's basically, if you have text edit and you put text in there and you shrink or grow the screen size, it will rewrap. And that's a good thing, right? So when it was invented mostly for text-savvy books that your reader would see on different devices, and they all want to see it filling the screen, and they might have different preferences for font sizes because maybe some people can read small font, other ones need larger fonts, stuff like that. So that's why the reflowing part, though a lot of designers find that not, or maybe even annoying, but not what they're used to, that's a good thing. That's how it was invented. Right? We're going to talk about fixed layout ePub in a second. So, but that's something you need to keep in mind when you design. So your design might not look the right way, right? So not the way you designed it. You could use a PDF on a tablet, but of course then you always need to zoom in, which is really annoying. It's not really what people like. So to solve that, ePub also has a second format called the fixed layout ePub. That's something we're adding in QuarkXPress 2015, not in QuarkXPress 10. It's a new feature in the new version. So we're talking about reflowable ePub here. So a lot of people wanted that pixel perfect ePub, and that's why this fixed layout ePub was invented. That might sound good for everybody of you who wants to have pixel perfect books. However, there is one small disadvantage of that. Now you have to know the screen size of your reader again. So if you're seeing that on an iPad and you design 3:4 aspect ratio and you're looking at that on an Android device 16:9 or 16:10, people might see black bars or have to scroll again. So there isn't the perfect format. Choose the one that makes sense for your publication, reflow or fixed layout. So today in QuarkXPress 10, it's all about reflow. QuarkXPress 10 adds this reflow view, which I'm going to show you. And that's really the content for your ePub publishing, meaning that's where text is in, or pictures, or video, or sound, or hyperlinks. So that's really the things that we can add in there. Remember, when you add video or audio, there might be devices that can't play that. So don't put crucial information in videos or in sound, because it could be that some weaker devices don't see that. And so it's always good to kind of think of these scenarios and have like a backup strategy, at least a little text saying in the video we're showing this, and then people understand that they can't read that or they can't view that. The second thing that is important about reflow is you need to tell QuarkXPress or the ePub when you export it what it actually is. So you need to put semantics in there, the meaning of components. When you look at a typical book, as a human, font sizes is always a very good clue whether something is a headline or something is body text or something is maybe the byline or whatever. An ePub or QuarkXPress, an electronic medium, needs to understand that. So you need to put that in. You probably already have done that using style sheets and naming of style sheets. And there's a very easy way of taking these style sheets and map them to the semantics. If you don't do that, styling of your ebook will be really strange. So you need to do that. With QuarkXPress 10, you can export in two different ways. Well, first, you can of course take an existing print layout. Maybe you have a book or a brochure, something that you want to publish as an ePub. So you take an existing layout and kind of convert that into ePub. I'm going to show you that. And of course, you can start an ePub from scratch, meaning you don't have any content yet. You have a brilliant idea for a topic, for a book, and then you just start writing. And we're also going to show you that. Let's jump into our demo. Let's first start with QuarkXPress 10 and get rid of my pre-canned ones. So when I say new project, typically I get this dialog where I define print. I can switch to ebook, right? And you don't have to decide here yet whether you're going to create an ePub or Kindle. What you're deciding for is I'm going to do a reflow layout. In the new project, you can decide for print or you can decide for an ebook, ePub, or Kindle. And you don't have to decide beforehand which format you're exporting. What you're deciding for, though, is you're saying I'm going to do a reflow, so text-based ebook. And if you look at this section here, it actually says cover image. A lot of people don't read that. Cover image meaning, though it looks like I'm specifying a certain format, I'm actually not doing that. It's only for the cover image, so the first page of my book. Everything else afterwards is reflowable. So I just say OK. And QuarkXPress shows me two layouts. The first one is a picture box. And that's actually my first page. My first page, I can now import a picture, but I can also use any kind of formatting tool that I have from QuarkXPress. So I call this my book, right? Make this a bit larger. I can maybe center it or whatever. So everything that I know from QuarkXPress, design-wise, I can use on that first page. And when we export, QuarkXPress is going to do a screenshot. So this is not going to be live text, it's going to be a screenshot. So that's why it means it looks pixel perfect, but just for the first page. My actual content is in this other window called Reflow. And I can just start typing, right? So this was my book and byline by me. And now it starts, or I could do a chapter beginning, stuff like that. So I'm just adding text. Of course, what could also happen is now, well, we export that, and then my ePub reader, so the device, doesn't know what this text is. So it's going to format everything the same way, and that's not really what I want. What I want is I want everybody to know that my book, for example, is the title. All right, so in the Reflow tagging palette, which actually should open automatically. If not, you can just get it under window, right? So open that palette. In the Reflow tagging palette, what I'm doing is I can see I have created a new article that could, for example, be a chapter, and I have a component, a text component. So I can edit that. I can maybe call that, it's going to be my title, and I'm going to do this as a title, and I say, okay. Well, what happened here? I made a mistake, right? So the first line is fine, my book, but the next one was my byline or my author line, and here's my body text. So since this is all in the same component, QuarkXPress thought, okay, everything is the title. Okay, that's not what I wanted. So what I want is, I want the second one to be my author line or something else. Maybe I can choose here from the predefined elements here. So maybe the byline author. So what I need to do is, in my Reflow tagging, I need to click on the second button and say, I add a text component. Right? So I have my text component here. And so I need to copy and paste, or cut and paste actually, the elements down here. I should name that. It's my author, and I'm going to call that byline author. Okay, and now you can see it's okay for title, right? Title, and this one is byline author. So you can also use the palette, of course, to do the tagging here. So that's how you give semantics. And the last thing I should do is I should cut that out, create a new text component, call that body text. This is my body, and I will just paste that in here. And QuarkXPress shows me that new article, body text, author, title, stuff like that. So I remember what I tagged it with. And that's really important, because that's how QuarkXPress will give it formatting. So that's why you can't do formatting except for some basic things, right? Like underline or bolding and stuff like that down here in the styles. Everything else QuarkXPress will decide, or actually the reader, the device will decide by using CSS. Remember, I said the ebook is basically an HTML format, and it's using CSS, cascading style sheets, something you know when you know how to web code. I'll come back to that later. So ebook is done, right? And I'm going to export it. It's really simple ebook, but that's fine. I just want to show you how this looks like. So call this my book, and I'm going to export that to my desktop, Finder, and there's my ebook, ePub, right? And let's view that. So I'm going to use iBooks. Just open with iBooks. If you've seen my session, I think a year or two ago, it was actually quite difficult to view an ebook on your computer, because there wasn't really like a nice reader. There was like Calibra, which is a good tool, but not really an easy reader. And I normally used a plugin in Firefox to display them. On modern OS X versions, Apple has actually added iBooks as a desktop application, and that's a really good application to view your book. So I can see my title, my book by me, and there's my body text, right? And it formats it in a certain way. So it's really nice that I have that on my Apple computer, and on Windows you need to look for alternatives, and we have some in the slides. The problem with iBook, it's actually not a problem. It's good that Apple did that. It's the most powerful, the best ebook reader on the market right now. So it shows you all of the features, and that's exactly the problem. So remember, just because you see it in iBooks doesn't mean that your reader can see it on a device, because maybe the device isn't as powerful and just doesn't show certain things. So it's good for previewing whether everything looks the way you want it. But don't take iBooks as the authority that everything is going to be right. Okay, so here's my ebook, and I'm really happy with it. One thing I see though is Quark put this little advertising in the title, right? They say ePub made using QuarkXPress. I don't want that. So where does that come from? Of course, we don't put these kind of things in there. An ePub needs a title. Otherwise, it's not valid. And I didn't specify a title in QuarkXPress. That's why this default string is in there. So if I want to get rid of it, it's really easy. I just go to Layout, eBook Metadata, and I put my own metadata in there. Title, my book by me. All right, so this is going to display now and not this default string anymore. Author is me, publisher, nobody, because maybe I'm self-publishing, copyright, all this stuff you should fill in, ISBN if you need an ISBN, language. It has no effect really on the book. It's only meta information, but it's important for readers to actually classify or to get an idea what this book is about, because the typical stores are going to use this meta information to display certain content. Same for description and keywords here. Okay, so I need to do that. Let's go back to my iBooks. So I have my book here, and maybe I don't like the formatting. I don't like how QuarkXPress is doing that, and I didn't have any way of influencing that in QuarkXPress. So how can I actually modify that? Well, one way is I just go back here, and I go to my book, and I open this with Sigil. Sigil is actually a very nice tool, and what it does, it allows you to look into kind of the interior of your ebook, right? It's going to show you HTML and all of the elements that are in there. So I can see it has a folder, so I'm kind of exploded the ebook and looking in internals here. So I have my cover here, right? So you can see there's my cover. I have a nav HTML, which is my content, my table of content. I didn't create one, so I should. And there's flow, which is really my body text, and I have my text in here. There's also styles in here. So there's certain CSS cascading style sheets that you might know from the web that are displayed here. And of course I can change them, right? There's things in here to say, you know, a chapter name has 1.8 ems and there's a text line is centered. So if you don't like that, you can just change that. If I have a pull quote and have a margin in here and I don't like that, I'll just take the margin out. Or maybe I want a margin for my body text, so I can change the CSS here. I know this will look very scary maybe to some of you, and I think as a digital publishing designer, you should have some basic skills of HTML and CSS. Not because you have to create them, just so that you understand what it does. And it's actually not that difficult, because if I now say, well, I don't like the styling of my book, I can actually change the CSS and customize that to how I want this to look like. And we put some elements in there. So if I show you QuarkXPress 10, right? Hide the rest here. So I show you QuarkXPress 10, and in here is in my application folder, I have my extensions folder. Go in there. Then I have a folder called Digital Publishing, Template, and the template in here will show you examples of the CSS. So you can maybe use very blue styling and stuff like that. So if you want to change that, it was interesting because the questions just came in. If you want to change that in QuarkXPress, just use a CSS and copy that in here. These 4 styles is the styles that QuarkXPress is using. So if you want to have that different, just change the CSS here and then export again, and the book will look different. So if you don't know how to create CSS, just take some of the examples, rename them to these names, and then just replace the original one. Of course, you should have a backup, because otherwise you can't go back. So that's a nice way of experimenting and seeing how QuarkXPress actually exports that. All right, so let's go back to QuarkXPress. So I've done everything. I've maybe exported, tweaked it in using Sigil, which I actually like better than Calibra. Last time I recommended Calibra. It's still a good tool, but I like Sigil a bit better. So this is my ebook created. What now if I have a print document, or I have something, a brochure, a book that was printed, and I now want to bring that into an ebook? So let's just take our Palm cookbook, which I think we have shown before. So what I want to do here is, now this is a printed cookbook, and I just want to put that into an ebook? Well, of course, I can just select things and then right mouse click and digital publishing, and I add things and stuff like that. I can also do everything at the same time. So I just go to layout and say add pages to Reflow View, and I will automatically put everything to Reflow View. The problem with doing that is that I don't know how QuarkXPress is going to classify it. It's probably all going to be body text or normal, maybe normal style sheet going to something else. So I want to tag that beforehand. Now, of course, I have a lot of pages here. I don't want to go through all of the pages and actually specify that. So what I do is I just look at, hopefully I used style sheet. Yes, I did. I used style sheets here. I have an A head, I have a B head here, and I can use that to tag automatically. How do I do that? I just go to my Reflow tagging and I open that and I can see I've already added things here. And now instead of going manually and tagging them, what I'm doing is I'm using this button in Reflow tagging that looks like a paragraph symbol. And in here I can see all my style sheets. So I can see A head and B head. And I'm telling QuarkXPress, can you please tag this to title, and maybe the pre-head to title 2, and the serving size maybe I want to have as a pull quote or whatever, and I have an e-head and divider rule and stuff like that. So I'm actually tagging elements here against these components that are in there. Also folios, right? A very important thing. Imagine I have a folio, I have like a page number in my print book. And since Reflow View is going to adapt to the device and showing the text larger or smaller, I don't actually know what page number this content is going to be on. So what I should do is I should say all the folios here I don't want to extract. Right? So if I don't extract them, the content is not going to go in my reflow. And that's what I want. I don't want page number 1, 2, 3, 4 in there, because it might be very confusing to my reader when they see on page 20 that it says page 5. So I just create these things, and then after I've done that, I go to add pages to Reflow View, and I'm just going to add these things and say okay, and now I'm going to automatically tag all of the things. I should have done more rules, but you can see and you can get the idea here. While this is working, what I want to do is I want to switch to QuarkXPress 2015, which we showed yesterday, and show you what's different, right? So that's the version that we're going to ship beginning of next year. So when I go to File, New Project here, I also can choose for the ebook, ePub, or Kindle. The new thing is down here at the right. So ebook type is Reflow. That's the same thing as QuarkXPress 10. We did some small tweaks and some bug fixes and stuff like that. But the new thing is fixed. Right? That's not available in QuarkXPress 10. It's only in 2015. And then I actually can design. I have a layout prepared here. I can design pixel perfect. So I can use all of the tools of QuarkXPress to actually get this as a fixed layout ePub. And even better, sorry, QuarkXPress 10 just finished, so it took focus. Let me just go back. And I can also use app-like effects. Right? So if I want to have this title to slide in from the side, then I'm just going to use the eBook interactivity palette in QuarkXPress 2015, and I can just add elements here and say this title should fly in from the right, and I want to autoplay it when it comes to the page and stuff like that. You might know that from our app publishing. The nice thing is we're using the same technology here for the fixed layout ePub, because it's also HTML, to give you a way to not create an app, but you create this fixed layout ePub, right? And then just export it the same way how I do that in QuarkXPress 10. So tagging is complete. Where's my Reflow View? Reflow View is in View, and you can see Reflow View here with the command key to actually look at it. So if I call that, you can see what QuarkXPress created out of that. So I have all of my elements here, and if I created the rules correctly, and I think it was this one. No, it's not the ePub. But if I created them correctly, then actually, this is a headline now because I told QuarkXPress to tag that to the component, right? So that's why it's so important to actually do this. And of course, then I can now see that in export that to iBooks and have a look in that. So that's basically how it works. There's of course more to it, like table of content and stuff I need to add. One thing that in the German session people actually asked us before is that they wanted to have videos in there. And let me just show you how to add a video, because that's often something that people say, video or sound I want to add in QuarkXPress 10 and then have that in my ebook. It's easy, right? You just add a new component. So remember when I added a text component? It doesn't have to be a text component only. It can also be an audio, picture, or video component. And just say add video component. I will attach the video here. I have a video somewhere. There's my video, and I say open and say OK. And now I have a component with a video, and I should add a little preview maybe in there and stuff like that. But that's how easy it is to actually add a video here. Okay, so in the slides that you're getting after the session also, we also have the cheat sheets again, so that you know what we've shown and there is more things. Also the limitations with reflow and stuff like that. I'm not going to repeat that to you now. I'm sure you can read. So what's next? What should you really do once you've published that? One thing that's really important is test it on different devices. Like I said, iBooks is a very great tool, but it shows more than probably all other devices. So test it not only on your computer, use an iPad, use an Android device, what your typical reader would do, and then tweak it if you need to using Calibra or Sigil. If you want to sell it, you should also get an ISBN, and there's services that can help you that. And for non-Americans, if you want to use iBooks, so sell your books via iBooks, so via Apple Store, you need a US tax ID. It's not so difficult to apply to that. I tried it myself just to see what's happening, and the only thing, it needed time. So I think it took me 4 weeks or 6 weeks to actually get that US tax ID. And so if you plan to do that, get the tax ID now, because it will take a while. Also, and I've already talked about that, what's interesting for ePub publishing is the fixed layout ePub. That's, as I said, only in QuarkXPress 2015, not in 10. The reflow is in both versions, right? So the reflow that I just showed you is in QuarkXPress 10 and in QuarkXPress 2015. So I just, eyed the questions. I'm going to go through the questions now. So if you have questions, just use the Q&A panel or the chat window, and I'm going to go through that now, because that's really what I wanted to do here, and tell you things that... Okay, there's the sound questions, that there was no sound, and luckily that worked again. Okay, so one question is, what's the maximum of the CSS style sheets? Yes, currently we use 4 CSS styles for headers and for the body text. Of course, that's not really determining the formatting. It's more the class name or the component type. So you have more stylings. It's really in QuarkXPress 10 here when you do the reflow tagging. You just open that palette. So the text tagging elements down here, that's the ones that you're restricted to. There's not more, and you can't add more. And that's the feedback we heard a lot in QuarkXPress 10. So we're looking at extending that list in QuarkXPress 2015. It's a bit early to talk about it, whether we can do it in the first version, but that's definitely something that we're looking at, because then you can add your own component and your own styling that gives you much more flexibility. Okay, so look at the next question. Okay, the question was to convert that, how do you create a Kindle version of the ePub? So you just say reflow as Kindle, and then what you need is the free Kindle Gen utility from Amazon. So you definitely can use that. So you download that once. You can just say get Kindle Gen here, and then once it's installed, QuarkXPress uses that to convert that. Test it yourself, please. See whether the quality that Amazon is giving you with that Kindle Gen is good enough. If it's good enough, then you don't need another converter. If it's not good enough, you can, of course, try Sigil and stuff like that to or Calibra to convert that. Okay, next question. Where do we get iBooks and Sigil? Sigil, just Google and download, right? It's I think it's I'm not sure if it's open source, but it's definitely available on websites where you can download it. And I think it's donationware, if I remember. I think I paid some money for it, but I think it was I didn't have to. And iBooks, of course, is in the Mac App Store, and it's actually installed per default on your computer, so you should actually already have it. And I think iBooks was added in Mavericks, if I'm not mistaken. So it's in Mavericks and in Yosemite. Okay, there's a question when we support Yosemite. We're working on it. We're almost there. We have one bug still. If you go to our forums, you can see it. And we probably think it's going to be next week, depending on testing. So we're not far away from supporting Yosemite with QuarkXPress 10 version 10.5 you need, though. One question whether QuarkXPress 2015 is an upgrade for QuarkXPress 10. Yes, it's an upgrade, so you can upgrade from version 10 to that. There is actually a promo right now running that gives you a pre-order possibility at a reduced price, which is only available for people who have already QuarkXPress 10. Anybody else who doesn't have QuarkXPress 10, you get QuarkXPress 2015 for free when you buy QuarkXPress 10. Okay, one last question. How do I import elements from Word? You just use the normal Word import in QuarkXPress 10. So what you should do is, to make that really easy for you, use the same style sheets that your Word document is using, or tell your users that create that Word document to use the style sheets that QuarkXPress is using. Because then you can actually map the content, the text from Microsoft Word in QuarkXPress. And then when you have set up these rules to tag them to ePub, it's really easy. You just import Word in an automatic text box. You match the style sheets. You have your rules ready for the reflow tagging. You say add all pages to reflow, and then you have converted your Word document via QuarkXPress to ePub, to reflow. And then you can enrich it by adding videos or sound or looking at styles and stuff like that. The table of content I'm not going to create today anymore because I think we're already running out of time. It's in one of the older videos where I showed how to create an ePub from scratch. So if you go to YouTube, QuarkXPress TV, then you can actually see how to create that. Okay, and one last question here. What happens to videos in older readers? It's not really older readers, it's weak readers. So if you go to a typical retail shop, discount shop where you get very cheap e-readers, they probably just ignore them. They just don't show them. It's like, we don't know what that is, so we're just going to ignore that. So that's why it's so difficult to publish for digital, because you don't know what device your readers are using. So that's why my tip before, just add a note or something in there, video here, and if they don't see it, at least they know there should have been a video, and don't get completely surprised if you do that. Okay, support, I promised you. You don't have to write that down. We're going to give you the slides and also the recording of this webinar. So that's how you can get help or ideas. Our forums is always a good idea. And one last thing, and I wanted to use some minutes to talk about that. Since this is the last class, and if you registered and watched all of the sessions, you will receive your masterclass certificate. We're going to do that in November. If you don't get your certificate for any reason, contact my colleague Matthias. He has the email address written down there to ask where your certificate is, but you should get that in November, so maybe in December ask if you haven't received it yet. And if you didn't watch all of the sessions, you can watch them on demand again, and once you did, you will get your certificate, and of course also you will be entered into the raffle to win the iPad. And I can just close by saying, well, it was fun doing these classes, and we got a lot of good feedback. And if you have an idea for that 7th class, send us an email. Let us know what class, what topic you'd like to see, maybe around Christmas, where we do another webinar. And well, thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.